Hey there, I'm Sandy Reese, Chief Encouragement Officer here at Get Fully Funded, where we help small nonprofits learn how to raise the money they need to fully fund their mission. I'm here to help you learn how to master the art and science of fundraising, and I've got a great tip for you in just a moment. But before we get to that, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that the next time we post a really great tip like this one, you're among the first to know. Okay, on to this week's tip.
Now we're in fundraising season, and obviously you know that. If you haven't figured out, this is the time of year when more nonprofits are raising money than ever before. So pretty much for me, fundraising season goes from about September all the way through New Year's. And the closer we get to the end of the year, the more intense this all gets. And if you look statistically, December is the biggest month of the year for giving, and it makes a lot of sense, right? People are making their year-end gifts, and particularly online. So online donations are bigger in December than any other time, and the last week of December is the biggest week of the year, like hands down, bar none. So right off the bat, let me give you this tip. If you don't have some kind of ask planned for that last week of the year, the week between Christmas and New Year's, if you don't have something planned, get it on the calendar. Now that can be as simple as sending out an email that just reminds people this is your last chance to give to count for 2020. Now a lot of people think, well, let's appeal to people's interest in tax benefit. Well, most people don't give for the tax benefit. So let me clear up something right here, especially as we think about year-end giving. So tax laws in the U.S. have changed. I'm not familiar with tax laws in other countries, but I can talk about in the U.S. what happens. Most people don't itemize anymore, and the tax benefit only matters if you itemize. So most people, especially those who are giving like $50 and $100, those donors, they're not itemizing, so it just does not matter. Don't even worry about that. However, you can still encourage people to make a donation that's going to count for 2020, and they already know that the clock is ticking away. They know, they get that. And what happens is that creates a little bit of a sense of urgency, and people are going to want to give. So I do encourage you to do that. I encourage you to do a combination of email and social media posts just to remind people they've just got a couple of days left or even a couple of hours left to give, to count on 2020, and that will help. All right, a couple of other things that you want to keep in mind as we're moving toward the end of the year. This is actually a really good time to pick up new supporters. Now, building your donor base is one of the smartest things you can do. If you guys have been around me very long, you know I talk a lot about planning, and I talk a lot about building a big loyal donor base, because the more people you have around you supporting your organization, the more money you can raise. The bigger your donor base, the bigger your revenue tends to be. Now that only works if you're taking really, really good care of your donors. So you do have to do that. But right here at the end of the year is a really good time to be inviting people to give. And I will share one more tip that I shared on a webinar yesterday, and I was really surprised somebody said, like, gosh, that's so obvious, but I hadn't thought about that. You have to ask. You have to ask people to give. So great if you have an email list, you have a snail mail list, you have following on social media, maybe you've got a big Facebook group or Instagram or whatever. Those people are not going to wake up in the morning and say, I feel like giving some money away today. Let me go find a nonprofit. Like, it doesn't happen that way. It's up to you to ask. So what I want you to do is look at your calendar between now and the end of the year and think about, where are we asking people to give? Because if you're not actually asking, like point blank asking on Facebook, you're missing some donations and you're missing the opportunity to pick up new donors. The other thing that can happen here at year end, if you're smart about it, and hey, Giving Tuesday is like 2 weeks away, you've still got time to plan something if you haven't already. There's some resources over on our blog at getfullyfunded.com/blog that will help you plan a Giving Tuesday campaign. But what you want to do is like reach out to your board and your volunteers and invite them to share with their friends and invite those people to give. Those relationships are key to bringing in new people, because while nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to give money away, if they have a friend who reaches out to them and says, hey, I'm involved in this organization. They're doing great work. We're trying to reach this goal of X. Will you help us? That is so powerful because it's based on the power of the relationship. So think about this. If you had a friend who reached out to you and said, I'm involved in this great cause, I'm very passionate about it, I'm trying to help them raise money, will you help? You're probably going to say yes just because it's your friend who asked and you trust them. You trust that if they're involved with it, it's a good charity, it's a good cause, and you trust and honor and value your friend. And if nothing else, you'll give just because your friend asked you to give. So if you want to be really smart about it, really start asking your board, your volunteers, your team, whoever's around you, to get them to share the things that you're posting. So if you post something on your Facebook page or wherever you post it, share it online and then reach out behind the scenes to your board and say, I just put this on Facebook. Go share it so that your friends see it. It's even more powerful if you can get them to share via a message. So if they're using Messenger or email or even texting, that's way more powerful than them just copying it and posting on their profile on Facebook. However, I'll take that all day long, right? Whatever we can get our board volunteers and team to do, we're going to take it because it just gets us out in front of more people. So those are some really practical, tactical kinds of things that you can do right now to take advantage. The other thing that you can do is really watch, and I love that somebody was asking about how do you take good care of donors? And this is something you really have to balance right now because we are in fundraising season and it's going to get more intense the closer we get to the end of the year. You're going to ask more often than you normally do. Now, let me ask you this before I go any further. Who likes being over asked? Right? Nobody wants to be asked over and over and over and over. It kind of feels like you're being pecked to death by a chicken or something. It's not fun. You know those people who every time they call you, they want something, and thank goodness for caller ID because you're like, no, I don't want to talk to them. We don't want your nonprofit to show up that way. We want your nonprofit to show up and your supporters go, ooh, what's going on now? We want them to be very interested. So we have to take care of donors, and part of that is really managing the balance between the asks and the feel good. At our Inspired Fundraising Retreat, we talk a lot about what we call touch the pearls moment. Like you want donors to read whatever you send and say, oh, I just love that nonprofit. They do such good work. Oh, give them a touch the pearls moment. That's what we're looking for. So I want you to be really mindful between now and the end of the year about where you're asking and where you're sending or sharing something that is a non-ask. And you need to have way more non-asks than asks. In fact, you need to have at least 3 times as many. Now, here's the really good news. You've got a lot of opportunity to do this. You've got opportunities to make some phone calls to some of your best donors just to say thank you. Shoot a video where you call them by name and say thank you. Prepare a video that just in general says thank you. My team literally wrapped up one today for a client that we're going to share Thanksgiving Day here in the U.S. to tell all their supporters how much we appreciate them. You've got time to do something like that too. You can do holiday cards. You can do a Facebook Live from your facility. Like, the ideas and the possibilities are endless of things that you can do that have no ask in them at all. And when you really get more sophisticated, you can start to segment donors so that if you send out an appeal, and I was talking to a client earlier today, they're going to send out something in a few days, and then they want to send something out again next week. And what we decided to do was anybody who gives gets segmented out so they don't get the second ask. When you get a little more sophisticated, you can do stuff like that to make sure that people are not being over asked. It's all about the donor experience, my friend. The better experience they have, the more they feel appreciated and not just a number in your database, the more they feel valued for being a partner, not just a check or not just a click on a donate button. The more they're going to want to give and the longer they're going to want to stick around. And this is good news for you. So I invite you to hit the pause button for a minute, look at what you have going on your calendar between now and the end of the year. Look at where you're asking. Be sure you are asking. but don't over ask. Make sure there's feel good stuff and touch the pearls moments in there in between so that people really get the great experience of giving to your organization. And that is going to help you not only raise a lot of money, but bring in some new supporters along the way this year during fundraising season. All right, you guys have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.